Alarms echoed across the simulation hall, a sharp contrast to the smug murmurs of alien spectators. The siege simulation was a rite of passage, a tradition so entrenched that most teams approached it with reverence. Today, however, marked the first time a Deathworlder team had entered the competition. While others prepared with careful calculations and traditional tactics, the humans huddled together, their body language as casual as if they were planning a camping trip. 72 hours? That's the record? Lena Torres asked, her tone carrying a hint of disbelief. Her sharp eyes scanned the fortress's holographic blueprint, noting the intricate network of defenses. She didn't seem intimidated, just curious. A nearby alien cadet, with translucent blue skin and a ridge of cranial horns, snorted audibly. Primitive Deathworlders won't last 7 hours, let alone 70. They lack the patience and refinement for this exercise. Samuel Grant, the towering earthling nicknamed Sarge, grinned at the remark but didn't bother turning around. Guess we'll just have to surprise them, huh? He said to his team, his voice rich with humor. Akash Patel tapped furiously on his data pad, his focus unshaken by the sneers. The AI's central system is overconfident. Look at this, he said, tilting the screen toward Lena. Its adaptive responses are fast, but they're not immediate. If we overwhelm it in bursts, it'll lag just enough for us to get through. Lena nodded, already piecing together their approach. Forget the long game. We go all in. Fast and loud. Samuel cracked his knuckles. Music to my ears. The announcement system buzzed, signaling the start of the simulation. Teams, prepare to engage. The simulation will begin in 30 seconds. Remember, your objective is to breach the central hub. Lieutenant Carlathan, the overseer of the exercise, watched the humans with thinly veiled skepticism. Humans and their penchant for chaos, he muttered to a fellow officer. Let's see how far their bravado takes them. The fortress loomed before the Deathworlders, a menacing monolith surrounded by layers of glowing force fields and bristling turrets. Other teams typically approached it cautiously, probing for weaknesses, setting traps, and dismantling its defenses piece by piece. The Deathworlders, however, had no patience for tradition. Turrets first, Lena said sharply, her voice cutting through the tension. Samuel, get us an opening. Akash, you're on the AI. I'll keep us moving. As soon as the timer hit 0, Samuel charged forward, a blur of motion that caught the alien spectators off guard. A burst of automated fire tracked his movements, but he was faster, weaving through the field like a predator hunting prey. He reached the first turret, slapped a makeshift explosive onto its base, and sprinted away before it detonated in a brilliant flash of light. The crowd gasped. Is he improvising with field tools? One alien whispered in disbelief. That's suicidal. Akash didn't look up from his datapad. His fingers danced across the screen as he injected a worm into the fortress's security grid. Shields recalibrating in 3, 2, now. A section of the force field flickered, creating a narrow gap. Move! Lena barked, leading the charge. The team slipped through the gap just as the shield reactivated behind them. The fortress AI, sensing the breach, unleashed a swarm of automated drones. Lena pivoted instantly, taking cover while signaling Samuel. Samuel, suppressive fire, now! On it! He shouted, tossing another improvised explosive into the swarm. The drones scattered, temporarily thrown off by the shockwave. Akash's voice was calm despite the chaos. We've got about 15 seconds before it reroutes power. If I can reach the node cluster, I can delay it further. Then get moving, Lena said. She provided cover, taking calculated shots at the remaining drones, her aim precise and deliberate. Samuel joined her, their teamwork seamless despite the chaos. From the control room, Lieutenant Carlathan narrowed his eyes. They're not playing the simulation. They're dismantling it. The Deathworlders continued their advance, each step a calculated move in their high-risk strategy. For the alien spectators, it was an enigma. Teams typically spent hours analyzing and disabling each defense layer. The Deathworlders? They had torn through the first line in minutes. As the team reached the second defense layer, Akash grinned, his datapad lighting up with a new alert. AI's trying to lock us out. Cute. Lena smirked. Show it what humans do to lock doors. The moment the Deathworlders breached the first layer of defenses, the Fortress AI recalibrated, shifting its strategy. The force fields thickened, turrets pivoted faster, and the drones began coordinating their attacks with ruthless precision. For most teams, this would signal a shift to a more conservative approach, a retreat to regroup. For the Deathworlders, it was just confirmation they had the fortress's attention. Force fields doubling power output, Akash reported, his voice steady over the comms. It's prioritizing energy to block us. Turrets are secondary for now. Good, Lena replied, her tone sharp and focused. We don't need the whole fortress, just an opening. Samuel was already ahead of the curve, charging toward a cluster of turrets with a makeshift shield scavenged from a disabled drone. The turrets unleashed a volley of plasma fire, the impacts ringing out like thunder, but he moved with terrifying speed, tossing an explosive charge that neutralized 3 turrets in a single blast. Turrets down, Samuel confirmed, his breathing heavy but steady. What's next? AI's response time is narrowing, Akash interjected. It's adapting faster than expected. If we want to keep the gap open, I need to access a secondary node cluster. Closest one is 200 meters ahead. Then we clear the path, Lena said, signaling Samuel to take point. She glanced at the simulation clock. Barely 3 minutes had passed since they started. Every move felt faster than the last, a relentless rhythm designed to keep the Fortress AI off balance. The team pressed forward, the fortress responding with increased ferocity. Gravity traps activated around them, pulling and twisting the environment into chaotic whirlpools. Lena noticed the subtle pattern in the trap's activation and adjusted their trajectory mid-movement. Stay close and follow my lead, she ordered. These traps are cycling in waves, time it right, and we slip through. Akash, trailing behind, grinned as he studied the trap's mechanics. Crude design. I can overload them. Don't waste time unless we're stuck, Lena countered, her eyes scanning for the next threat. Focus on keeping us ahead. Samuel reached the secondary node cluster first, clearing a perimeter with another explosive. Akash dropped to his knees and immediately began working, plugging his datapad into the node's interface. The Fortress AI fought back, flooding the system with countermeasures, but Akash anticipated each one, outpacing the machine with calculated precision. Give me 60 seconds, he muttered, sweat beading on his forehead. Maybe 50 if it doesn't. There it is. Cute trick. The AI unleashed a surge, attempting to fry the node, but Akash rerouted the current just in time, sending a wave of energy cascading back into the fortress's systems. For a brief moment, the lights flickered, and the turrets stuttered. That's your opening, Akash shouted. Lena didn't hesitate. Move now! Samuel, cover the rear. The team surged forward, navigating through collapsing defenses. The Fortress AI recalibrated again, deploying heavier drones equipped with shielding and enhanced weaponry. Lena adjusted tactics instantly, directing Samuel to engage while she and Akash focused on disabling the final layer of defenses. Samuel's combat prowess was on full display as he took on the drones, using his agility and strength to dismantle them with precision strikes. The alien spectators watched in stunned silence, many unable to believe what they were witnessing. Deathworlders weren't just improvising, they were dominating. Lena and Akash reached the final barrier, a massive energy door reinforced with adaptive shielding. Lena studied it for a moment, her mind racing through possibilities. We don't have time to break it down. Akash, can you override it? Not without triggering a lockdown, Akash replied, his hands flying over his datapad. But I can trick it into thinking we're already inside. Do it, Lena said, her tone leaving no room for argument. As Akash worked, Lena monitored the battlefield, her mind calculating every variable. Samuel was holding his own, but the drones were becoming more aggressive, their movements more coordinated. She knew they were running out of time. Akash? She pressed. Almost there. Just need done, he declared as the energy door flickered and then dissolved. We're in. The team pushed through the opening, entering the fortress's core. The AI unleashed one last desperate countermeasure, locking down the environment with shifting gravity fields and automated turrets. Lena didn't falter. Samuel, neutralize the turrets. Akash, disable the gravity field. I'll secure the objective. Their movements were synchronized, each cadet playing to their strengths. Samuel's raw power and combat instincts, Akash's technical brilliance, and Lena's razor-sharp leadership combined into a seamless operation. Within moments, the core was in their hands, the AI subdued. The simulation clock stopped. Time, 8 minutes 42 seconds. The Fortress AI fought back with everything it had, deploying layers of adaptive countermeasures designed to trap and disorient its adversaries. The core chamber was a labyrinth of shifting platforms and cascading energy barriers, each one recalibrating faster than the last. The Deathworlders, however, weren't deterred. Akash, status on the core shields? Lena's voice was steady, but her eyes scanned the chaotic chamber, calculating their next move. It's cycling through defenses every 10 seconds, Akash replied, his fingers flying across his datapad. It's learning faster than I can adapt. If we don't disrupt its primary algorithm, it'll lock us out entirely. Then we don't give it the chance, Lena said. Samuel, draw fire. Akash, find me a weakness. Samuel didn't need to be told twice. He charged into the open, drawing the attention of the automated turrets lining the chamber. Plasma fire rained down, but Samuel's speed and agility kept him just ahead of the onslaught. His movements were deliberate, each step calculated to create openings for the others. Akash's datapad beeped as he isolated a vulnerability in the fortress's power grid. The central relay, it's routing energy unevenly. If we overload that node, it'll force a system reset. Location? Lena demanded. Akash pointed to a platform suspended above the core. There. But it's guarded by a full drone squad. I'll handle the drones, Lena said, her tone resolute. Samuel, get me to that platform. With a nod, Samuel shifted his focus, creating a path through the chaos. Lena followed close behind, her movements precise and deliberate. The drones converged on their position, but Lena anticipated their attack patterns, taking them down with swift, calculated strikes. Samuel's raw power complemented her precision, the two of them moving like a single unit. As they reached the platform, the Fortress AI deployed its final defense, a massive, multi-layered energy barrier that pulsed with deadly intensity. Akash's voice crackled over the comms. That barrier is a fortress within a fortress. I'll need time to destabilize it. How much time? Lena asked, her tone clipped. 30 seconds, maybe 40, Akash replied. But you'll need to keep the system distracted. It's focusing all its resources on keeping us out. Lena turned to Samuel. You heard him. Let's give it something to think about. The two of them launched an all-out assault on the barrier's outer layer, their combined efforts forcing the AI to divert power to maintain its defenses. Akash worked furiously, his datapad a blur of activity, as he exploited every vulnerability in the system. The fortress trembled under the strain, its once impenetrable defenses beginning to falter. 15 seconds, Akash called out. Just hold it a little longer. The barrier flickered, its energy output dropping as Akash's hack took effect. Lena and Samuel pressed their advantage, their relentless assault overwhelming the AI's ability to adapt. With a final surge of effort, the barrier collapsed, leaving the core exposed. Core is vulnerable! Akash shouted. Hit it now! Lena didn't hesitate. She activated the breach protocol, a sequence designed to overload the core's systems and bring the simulation to a decisive end. The chamber erupted in a blinding flash of light as the fortress's systems shut down, signaling their victory. The simulation clock stopped. Time, 11 minutes 37 seconds. The silence that followed the simulation's abrupt conclusion was almost as deafening as the chaos that had preceded it. For a moment, no one spoke, no one moved. The timer displayed on the massive central monitor flashed in bold numbers: 11 minutes, 37 seconds. It was an impossible time, one that had shattered a century-long record with ruthless precision. The alien spectators, who had been jeering or scoffing at the Deathworlders just minutes before, were now frozen in disbelief. Lieutenant Carlethan stared at the results, his mind struggling to process what he had just witnessed. "That's not possible," he muttered, his voice barely audible. "No species, no team, nothing should be able to do that." The murmurs began almost immediately. From the stands, alien cadets and officers alike speculated wildly, some accusing the Deathworlders of foul play while others simply gaped at the sheer audacity of what they had accomplished. Words like reckless, barbaric, and unstoppable floated through the air, none of them able to fully encapsulate the magnitude of the moment. Inside the simulation chamber, the Deathworlder team stood together, still catching their breath but visibly unfazed by the uproar outside. Samuel was the first to speak, his signature grin spreading across his face as he glanced at the clock. "Well, I guess we'll need a new record to break next time." Akash let out a laugh, his relief evident as he checked his data pad. "System logs confirm it, clean run. No errors, no rule breaking. They can complain all they want, but this one's airtight." Lena, ever the calm strategist, simply nodded. "We didn't just beat the simulation. We redefined how it's done." The uproar in the viewing chamber escalated as Carlethan stepped forward to address the crowd. His expression was a mix of frustration and begrudging respect. "The results are indisputable," he announced, his voice carrying over the noise. "The Deathworlder team has achieved the fastest completion time in the history of this academy." He paused, clearly grappling with his next words. "While their methods were unconventional, they operated entirely within the parameters of the simulation. This record stands." The reaction was immediate. Some alien cadets erupted in protest, demanding an inquiry or a rematch, their pride stinging from the Deathworlders' overwhelming success. Others watched in silence, their expressions a mix of awe and newfound wariness. For many, this was their first real encounter with humanity's relentless ingenuity and adaptability, and it was terrifying. A reporter from a prominent galactic news network broke the tension, her voice broadcasting to the entire chamber. "Cadet Torres," she called, directing her microphone toward Lena. "How do you respond to accusations that your team's tactics were reckless and aggressive, bordering on unsporting?" Lena's gaze was steady as she answered, her words measured and precise. "Our approach wasn't reckless, it was efficient. The simulation is designed to test adaptability, resourcefulness, and teamwork. We didn't just play the game, we mastered it. If others view that as aggression, perhaps they should reevaluate their own strategies." The response rippled through the room, silencing some critics while sparking further debate. Akash stepped in with his own quip, his tone lighter but no less pointed. "If you're upset because we won, maybe the real problem is that you underestimated us in the first place." Samuel chuckled at that, adding, "And let's not forget, we're just cadets. Imagine what we'll do with some real training." The tension in the chamber shifted, the alien spectators now grappling with a mix of resentment and grudging respect. The Deathworlders had done more than just win, they had upended centuries of tradition, forcing the galaxy's best and brightest to confront the uncomfortable truth of their own complacency. Back in the command center, Carlethan watched the team with narrowed eyes. He couldn't deny their skill or their results, but a part of him bristled at the implications. If these humans were capable of such feats as cadets, what would they become as fully trained operatives? The thought was both exhilarating and deeply unsettling. As the crowd slowly began to disperse, a holographic transmission interrupted the proceedings. The image of the Galactic Fleet Commander appeared, their imposing presence commanding immediate attention. "Cadets," the commander said, their voice even but laden with authority, "your performance today has been noted. Such ingenuity and determination are rare qualities, even among the elite." The commander's gaze swept over the Deathworlders, lingering for a moment before continuing. "Expect an invitation to participate in the Advanced War Games next cycle. We'll see if your tactics hold up against real-world scenarios. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber buzzing with speculation. Lena turned to her team, her expression unreadable. Looks like we've got more work to do. Akash grinned. Good. I was starting to worry this place might get boring. Samuel clapped a hand on Lena's shoulder, his grin as wide as ever. We came, we saw, we conquered. What's next? Lena allowed herself the faintest of smiles. Next? We prove this wasn't a fluke. And we show them what Deathworlders are really capable of. As the team exited the simulation chamber, the weight of their accomplishments settled over them. They hadn't just broken a record, they had sent a message to the galaxy. Humanity was here, and they were just getting started.